mean, effectively, if you're a coach, what are the things you want to be highlighting that you do and can do, and how do you want to communicate it?
And that's where I think a lot of this episode is truly valuable from a consumer perspective, because you will have people that have maybe 2 or 3 certifications.
Welcome back to Beyond the Pump, where we break down the business of fitness and nutrition. And today, we're going to actually talk about what health consumers, so coaches, what your clients should effectively be looking for. But here's the thing that they mostly care about is results, right? And you can go out there and you can get all the certifications in the world, whether they're free, $1 or $1,000, and none of them matter unless you can actually build a connection, a true connection, not one built on some type of launch and struggle methodology that they're just bought your shit because it was cheaper than it normally is, but a true connection where you can actually get them to achieve the result that they want with the information and ways that you have. So for people out there looking for a coach, you're looking to get healthier, you're looking to gain muscle, lose weight, increase metabolism, sleep better, whatever the thing is, this one's for you. For our coaches, this one's also for you, because we're telling your potential clients what to look for. So, Andrew,
Yeah.
what's the big thing that kind of pops up in your mind as we jump into this one?
I think it's probably one of the most overlooked yet understated aspects of any kind of situation that's going to lead to long-term results. And you know what? I'm going to leave this one last, and I'm going to go to the second one. So that way, if you've listened, enjoy that titillating cliffhanger, because now you're going to have to, and I circled it, so I'm not going to forget it. I promise I won't leave you hanging. But this is actually something that's really surprising. Most people usually don't even consider this as part of one of the most quintessential coaching aspects. But when we move on from that, the next thing we're going to talk about effectively is you got to incorporate some type of fitness, some type of nutrition, some type of lifestyle changes. And when you think about the nature of how big or how drastic those have to be, I think that those mean a little bit less than the second thing, which is effectively the amount of consistency that you can partake with. If you absolutely hate something, probably not going to be super consistent with it. If it's not convenient for you in a very busy life, probably not going to be super consistent with it. So the idea is everything has to back into consistency after the number one thing that we just skipped over, that I'm going to keep referencing, so that we have to keep listening, because apparently hooks matter.
Hooks matter.
So, but yeah, I would say consistency, when we think about from a coaching, like a big picture perspective. But, what would you say in your experience as a consumer, And,
well, I think it's, for me, before I'm willing to kind of take the jump in, there needs to be some type of social proof. So, hey, I'm going to hire a coach. I'm likely going to ask somebody, hey, do you have a recommendation or somebody that I should go and connect with to help me solve this problem? That's going to always be a big thing. So that networking component is going to be big for the coaches, because if somebody knows that you're the person to go to, they're going to send me your way. But then once that initial kind of suggestion happens, it really comes to your ability to listen to me. I'm not an idiot when it comes to health and wellness. I just tend to overthink things and get in my own way. So for me, I need somebody who's willing to listen to the actual problem, because I can't articulate it very well. It's like, hey, Andrew, I need to go run a lot. What kind of food should I eat? Rice or sweet potatoes? And it's like, all right, clearly Steve knows that he needs to eat some carbs, but clearly Steve's having some hard time juggling what kind of carbs matter for the situation at hand. I'll never forget, before one of my first Spartan races, when you were coaching me, was like, hey, you're going to go dump a bunch of Gatorade powder in the water.
Oh, yeah.
It's gonna be like, it's gonna the appropriate amount of like Gatorade to water ratio is basically just before gelatinous, right? And I'm like, Andrew, but isn't that a lot of sugar? And you're like, yes, Steve, that's actually literally the point, Steve. And I'm like, yeah, but sugar's bad. And he's like, I know, but right now it's not bad. It's just bad if you were to drink this normally. And I'm like, yeah, but I need Oh, wait, sugar are all right, fine, I'll do it. Still reluctantly.
Mhm.
Still reluctantly. Now, my first race, I think I consumed only half of that I was supposed to consume to go through. And magically, that race, I smashed my prior PR by like 20 or 30%. And I'm like, huh, I wonder if I drank all the sugar I was supposed to drink. So then the next race, I'm like, I'm going to drink all the sugar. Now, Andrew did layer in some baking soda, which, depending upon who you ask, some people will tell you the research is complete bullshit, that it doesn't help. I have not read the research, but here's what I'll tell you.
Those people don't
I
read research.
finished in the top 3% and smashed my like prior PR by like 50%. So it's like if I drink all the sugar and I throw some baking soda in and then I smash my PR. Now, not to say I didn't train, not to say I didn't eat well beforehand and all these components, but day of, and you're like, oh, he listened to me. He helped me get the result that I cared about. And he was able to navigate my weirdness around literally gelatinous water of sugar to be able to run the thing. But guess what? I ran the thing and it worked. So for me, those are my two big things.
Mm.
Somebody needs to know you and probably refer you. And then within 30 days, there needs to be proof of like true substance that like, you know what you're talking about, but you listened to me and helped me achieve the outcome by getting through like my own limiting belief that I had on whatever topic or thing we were talking about.
Yeah, I think you're really pointing to the idea here that trust is absolutely the cornerstone of how that relationship works. And just for everyone that's listening,
Oh, if I don't trust you, I ain't doing shit.
no,
And
100%.
and I know enough to be dumb, but I also know enough that I'm smarter than the average person in this world. So I think I'm better than you until you prove to me you're better than me.
Hmm. Yeah, and that's where I think a lot of, and this is actually a potential hot topic to discuss. But do you need to be fit as a coach? Is that something that immediately engenders trust? I think it can. And I think we do find that consumers are very easy to latch on to things that, I mean, we're one of our biggest evolutionary advantages as humans is imitation. And it's one of the fastest ways we learn. And so when we see someone that looks a particular way that we want to, we want to look like, then you can imagine that it decreases the lack of trust. I wouldn't say it necessarily builds trust, but I think that there are barriers to getting someone to be more willing and having that buy-in. It doesn't build in buy-in, but it definitely, again, I think can be really helpful there. And just for everyone that's listening, that's like, how much like we're talking about this entire season is going to be mostly on fitness, nutrition stuff. Last season was heavy on business, so we hope you appreciated that. If you haven't gone and checked that stuff out, make sure you do. A lot of goodies there for you, but the amount of carbohydrate in there, we had to overcompensate. It's only supposed to be a 6 to 8% solution, but because the race was so long, you didn't want to carry more Gatorade powder to then mix it. The idea was to drink a little bit and then put some more water in there. So we all heard this for the first time, then only drank half of it because I had no idea. Steve is very much, he loves to solve problems. And then sometimes he creates those problems for himself to solve so he gets to stay busy, I feel like that's a good little adventure. I
Yeah,
do the
but
same thing.
listen, now do you not want to know what's always with me when I run a race? Gatorade.
Baking
And
soda.
magically on my backpack, you know what happened? My backpacking trips, I now carry bags of white powder with me.
Forgot about that. Dude, that's crazy. Yeah, I remember the baking soda. I was like, man, if you shit yourself, like that's gonna be a problem. So test it out beforehand. And I mean, actually, I think it worked out. But
Oh, I tested it out beforehand. I remember that.
it did. Yeah, I think you had a little too much. I think we had to cut the dose in half. I remember that one day, that one weekend, you did all 3 races, and we were like, "Fuck, how are we gonna split this across all 3?" I wish we had taken your blood pressure. That shit would have been through the roof from all that sodium.
No,
Ugh.
let's not. If
Yeah.
you if you if you never took a COVID test, you never have COVID. So I mean, you know.
Facts.
Yeah.
Facts. Yeah. And just
Anyways,
for everyone that's listening, I still do the bicarbonate. I literally did it for a race recently, and I wouldn't say it adds more to it. It just takes your 100% and adds you to, like, now you can go to 110 or 115%. So if you're curious about it, It's 0.3 grams per kilogram of body weight is the dosing. And I think it's done probably between 1 to 2 doses, about 30 to 90 minutes prior to your event. So
Test
just keep that in mind.
test it
Yes. No,
before
don't
the
test it.
event,
Don't test it.
because
Just be
because
ballsy.
0.3 grams per kilogram is a rough estimation, and you'll you'll know you'll know. Look
Don't
at it.
chug it.
It basically sucks all the water in your body into your GI tract.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
moving on though. Moving on though. Um,
uh,
trust,
yeah.
understanding, like that stuff for me is going to be a big thing, because if I sit there kind of questioning everything you always have to say,
Mm-hmm.
I'm never fully bought in, and I'm busy trying to like prove you wrong versus just listening and like, all right, here's what I have to do.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
Yeah.
a big one. How do you do trust,
Yeah.
right? And it's
Yeah.
I even gave a presentation this weekend around one of the ideas and like validation, right? Social proof, all of that stuff matters. So making sure you have some of those things in there in your world, in your back pocket, is going to be key. It's going to be important. There is a large subset of people that are going to want to see somebody else similar to them that has achieved a similar result that they desire to achieve.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I think we've mentioned the trust triangle in a previous episode, but on 3 dimensions, you got competency going up, you got caring going down to the left, and then you got reliability going down to the right. And if your triangle's fucked up in any way, you're not going to get very high. And so, people don't really care what you know until you know how much you care. Definitely one of those things. And so there's one last thing I'd like to say on that before we move on to some actual tactical, like coaching, physiology elements that you should look for. But you have roughly 7 seconds to form a first impression. You have 7 days to demonstrate that you care and you're willing to, and you're reliable, right? And then you have 7 weeks to determine and help people understand that you're competent and can deliver a positive result that's meaningful. And so if you practice those 3 sevens and you're kind of constantly thinking about that, I think that that'll really help you start to generate some positive momentum related to building that trust. But anything else that's like a personality trait or an intangible before we jump into the science stuff, Steve, that you think is important for consumers to look for whenever they're trying to hire a coach, things that are actually mattering?
I think back to one of our prior conversations, just meeting or exceeding expectations is big here, because that helps build trust and reliability and accountability and all those things. It's hard to meet or exceed expectations that you don't set, because then you leave it for that person to kind of come up with what that is. And, you know, that they can come up with anything. And that might not be what you do. So
Oh yeah.
setting the stage for you to be able to meet the expectations of somebody is going to be key and important. Just throwing that out there here.
Yeah. And then the more you charge, the larger the client expectation is too. And so that's something that when you take a lot of new coaches that may not have the most tenure, experience, or knowledge, and you're like, hey, you should go be a high ticket coach, it really just it fucks them up, because now the expectation is going to be significantly greater than what they usually can deliver, which is why we suggest caterpillaring your prices, or like starting with a little bit and kind of going on a tiered approach as you gain more demand, um, just to keep yourself mentally healthy if you're a coach, right? Now, that said, one last intangible here is that not all the coaches are worth what they're charging. And that's where I think a lot of this episode is truly valuable from a consumer perspective, because you'll have people that have maybe 2 or 3 certifications, maybe have been a part-time trainer, having 1 or 2 clients for like a year or two, and they'll be like, hey, I'm going to charge $200 an hour. And I'm like, for what? Everyone else is like, and there's like, seasoned vets, tenured with 5 to 10 years of experience, multiple certifications, and they're charging like 100 to 150 a session. And so when I saw that recently, because that is a very real thing, this trainer just had no real justification in terms of why they could do that. And so, just be wary that as you're interviewing trainers, so you should always have a conversation before you sign up and fork over some money. You just want to make sure you got that vibe, and ask if they've helped anyone in similar situations, what that experience was like. Sometimes you even ask them for some dissatisfied customers if you're going to be a troll, and kind of go from there. Right. But moving on to the physiology stuff. So we obviously kind of, here at Beyond the Pump and in our education sister of, the Empowered University, we have a specific way that we believe coaches should coach. And it's born off of, close to probably 30 years of collective experience between the two of us. And we understand that there has to be some kind of fitness component. There has to be some kind of nutrition component.
I
And
feel
there
like
has
we're
to be
pushing over 30 at this point, no?
I think so.
2016 to 2025 for me.
So 9. Yeah. And then I think I'm at,
Or not 2016, excuse me, 2006. Jesus.
yeah, I think it was like 2004
19.
or 5 when I first
It'll
started.
be 19 years this year.
19.
Yeah.
God damn. Yeah, I think I'm sitting at 2004,
I'll get maybe
2005. So is that 2021?
Collectively 40 years of experience.
Collectively 4 years? 40 years, yeah. 4 decades, y'all. I mean, and that's not a small amount. And so we fucked up a lot. Like there's a lot of dumb shit we've done, and I love to do dumb shit repetitively. Trust me, I'm a slow learner. That's why I'm such a good problem solver. It's because I like to make a lot of mistakes. And so, I would definitely say that it takes 20 hours of exposure to start to build a habit, to make sure that someone's comfortable with it. That's 1 hour a day for 3 weeks. So as you're thinking about this stuff, when you think about tracking your food, you think about getting to the gym 3 days a week versus 4 days a week versus 5 days a week. You think about getting your steps in. You think about drinking your water. You think about going to bed on time. You think about 47 other different things that you need to be doing consistently, by the way, just not like one and done, but consistently adopting and stacking these things on top of the last one. That's what it takes. And it's not sexy. And I'm really sorry to say, if you are a health consumer and you're expecting quick results, like there really doesn't seem to be a physiological shortcut outside of surgical interventions, which, by the way, like I'm not shitting on. Totally viable solutions for certain individuals. Like if you're in the acting career and like that's your industry and, like you need something, I don't know. I'm just saying that there's a use case for everything, but there really oftentimes is not a shortcut unless you're just blessed with your genetics or you're using some kind of enhancing substances. Those do tend to be some caveats, but even so you have to do the work.
On that, and it was interesting. So I gave a presentation this week, and I had asked everybody a year ago. I was in front of a similar room of people, and every good presentation, what's your 1 year goal, 3 year goal, 5 year goal, all these components, and I had them write down goals around health, relationships, and wealth. So health was one of the big things, and I pulled up my 1 year of health progress with certain things. Mm-hmm. And in any given week, I remember looking back, and I do an in-body basically every week, unless just I'm away or something there. And it's like, 0.6 pounds here. And oh man, I went the wrong way by 0.2 pounds. And you look at all that and you're like, crap. Right. So you see that progress, but you don't feel the progress. Well, this last week was the first time I went back and like, look, what was I a year ago? In 1 year's time, I've gone from 66.1 pounds of fat down to 41.1 pounds of fat on my body. And like body skeletal muscle mass 1038 to 1089. And I'm just like, wow, that's a lot. But like week over week, there's nothing motivating about the results. So just highlighting that when I looked back at a year of consistency and like focusing on the thing, I was like, wow, really good progress. But you don't feel it every single week. It's hard. It's hard to feel it every week because, to your point, unless you go literally chop your arm off to lose some weight, it doesn't happen overnight. It's pretty hard.
Yeah, I mean, it's they say you have some micro bursts of aging. Once when you hit think 35, and then 40 something, and then 60 something, right? And then it's just this rapid acceleration. You start noticing wrinkles and stuff like that, and it's more or less like that where you see yourself in the mirror every day, and it's really challenging for you to wrap your brain around. Like that person has a couple different skin cells, a couple different mouth tissue layers have turned over. To give you a frame of reference, guys, like you'll have a brand new liver every 4 to 6 weeks, meaning all the cells in your liver will have died and been regenerated. So you're kind of looking at generations there. I think it's roughly like 2 weeks for your mouth and your mucous membranes up there. I think bones are closer to 6 months, and then your muscle tissue is like 10 to 15 years. And so this is why it takes a little bit longer for some of those adaptations to change, because you're literally trying to manipulate your DNA and telling your body like, hey, I need these signals, I need this thing, and I need it done in a non-hostile environment, meaning you're not like super sleep deprived, you're not, getting beat in a pit somewhere and like, having all these conditions that are conducive for you to actually have those changes. But when people put themselves in positions of strife or stress, and those are extended, meaning like, and this is where you got to consider your lifestyle. If you hate your job, you're working 80 hours a week and you can't seem to get your bills met, and now you're going to add in a fitness change on top of that, more often than not, people will not succeed in that. I will say there are exceptions for sure, right? But we don't want to deal with the exceptions because that's not where we start with most people. God forbid we completely miss the mark. And so when we think about lifestyle, oddly enough, that's probably the biggest determining factor of sustainability. And when I say lifestyle, also I'm referring to like social interactions. If you have a whole bunch of friends that love to go out every Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, right? Like chances of you having any meaningful weight loss is probably going to be slim to none, because you're going to be wanting to go out with them and the social pressure, and you can have the best intentions. But if the people around you are exhibiting different behaviors, it creates a groupthink mentality that is so easy to backslide into. And this is why one of the longer conversations that we often talk to clients about is that, like, hey, maybe we start to introduce some healthy influences, some things that are more aligned with your goal. Not like, because you can find bodybuilders that are crazy too, and obviously pull you down the orthorexic path and have to have their meals all the time and everything. But, it's, you got to figure out which type of imbalance you want until you get to whatever goal you're looking to achieve. Steve, you have anything to say about lifestyle stuff?
3 Spartan races in a single weekend is by far the best way to get healthy.
Didn't you drag friends and family into that?
Yep. Yeah.
Oh man, yeah, I think Sophia ran your last one with you, right?
Well, not yet. She ran a kids one, so she
Oh,
did.
okay.
She did her trifecta last year.
Damn, that's crazy. Yeah, proud
So,
dad moment. Not even
absolutely.
having to twist her arm into it.
But
Well, that's
yeah.
actually that's a great way to look at that too. Is that if you stick with something long enough and your body starts to change and people notice, because this is usually how it goes: is people in your life will notice your body changing before you will. And if you have great friends, they'll comment positively and encourage you. Um, but when you are consistent in your set of behaviors, people will now want to slowly deviate, and you can actually be a positive influence on other people. And so, not to say that you need a completely new friend group for everyone that's listening, that's like, my friends love to party, but maybe you can interject some healthy things here and there. Just don't be a dickhead about it and turn them off to it. But sleep's a big one. I don't think Steve would have had nearly the results that he had, and he probably would have gotten pretty frustrated initially, as anyone would have, had he not slept as good as he did. So actually, it's interesting these days. If someone doesn't get at least 6.5 hours of sleep on average, I refuse to work with them. So Steve, I don't think I ever told you that actually. I refuse to work with people that will not sleep. It
Yeah.
makes no sense.
That,
Um,
I've never had to worry about that one.
you're so good at that. I'm actually pretty envious. I was doing a Whoop long, so I had a guy that wore a Whoop strap, and he was a long-term case study. So I looked at about 4 years of data, and I looked at his body fat percentages, and we kind of aggregated them in annual totals, and we did some correlations, and we found that his sleep debt, the amount of sleep that he missed based on his target, was the strongest predictor of his body fat mass. Isn't that crazy? Sleep debt, not total amount of sleep, not even the time zones, because I was a psychopath and I looked at the time zones. Literally how much sleep that he had.
That's
And
my sleep average for the past 31 days, 7 hours and 50 minutes.
yep. And does that short you or no?
Little bit. It's funny. The past 7 days, I'm 8 hours and 15 minutes. So
Oh yeah, because yeah, that makes sense. Good. I mean, guys, I can't overstate it enough. And if someone's not willing to sleep, like, it's gonna be an uphill struggle. Now, whether you consider non-exercise activity in the lifestyle or the exercise component, excuse me, I would say that it probably fits more along the lines inside of the actual exercise component, because most people say, I need to go walk steps. I need to go exercise. I need to go be active. And as soon as the intention is to be active, it's no longer considered neat. Um, and that's interesting too, because when you consider your active, your watches and your wearables, your Oura ring will usually overcompensate steps more so than something on your wrist, because think about how often your fingers move versus your wrists. And at least that's been my experience of it. And if you compare a pedometer to an Oura ring, it's pretty significant in terms of a difference. I mean, you're looking at anywhere from 7 to 19%, I think is what I've seen. I don't know if they've done any research on that, but you got to be active in general. Yeah, there you go. Just wave your finger around like you just don't care. So sleep, non-exercise. I would say social determinants of health are also going to be fitting into the lifestyle, meaning you got to make some friends, you got to be connected socially. Otherwise, someone, even though they look great, can spiral mentally, and then that'll just eventually become a losing battle as well. They found that one of the biggest predictors for long-term health, oddly enough, was the amount of social connections for people, and that white males had the highest actual completion rate of suicides. So check on your white male friends. They're getting it rough right now from social media. Oh man. But anyway, so I would say that's probably it for lifestyle. Anything else that you can think of, Steve? That makes sense for people to look at, or at least have a conversation with a coach.
The
Or
only other thing I'd throw in there, and I I know this isn't lifestyle, but I feel like it can be lifestyle to an extent. It's going to bridge into nutrition a smidge, so maybe we'll use this as the jump over. But hydration, to an extent, like I realize again, it's a byproduct of nutrition and focusing there.
Mm-hmm.
But like if part of your lifestyle is to become accustomed to consuming enough water,
Yeah.
I think that makes that side so much easier.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's a nutrition component, but I'm going to kind of saddle this one a smidge, because people who come in, it's like, I don't like water. I can't drink water. I need like, it's like that battle with that person to drink enough and consume enough fluids. And I know you don't need just water, but for sake of this conversation, just water. But people come in, it's like they're drinking 12 ounces of water a day, and I think they're winning. That's an entirely different battle that I kind of liken that to the sleep thing, where you don't get enough sleep, you're not going to recover. You don't drink enough water, you're not going to be hydrated. So yes, nutrition, but kind of lifestyle-ish in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely carrying that fucking water jug around all day if you're one of those people. Which, by the way, just so we're clear, like everything else, we're looking for Goldilocks zone, not too hot, not too cold, just right. You can't drink too much water, and in fact, especially with the people that I'm around, there are a lot of fitness people, and they drink too much fucking water. Like, there's actually even some research here recently that you might not need to drink as much water as people generally recommend. When we say half your body weight in ounces per day, that was more or less the rough calculation of fluid loss that someone would accumulate during the day. It's not necessarily what everyone should be doing. And so what we're finding though is that some people are drinking, like if you have a coach that says you got to drink a gallon of water every day. Okay, full pause. Let's think about this for a second. If you're a 5'3" female that wants to lose 20 pounds, and let's just say you weigh, I don't know, 160 pounds, right? 5'3" female, 160. And they're like, hey, you need to drink a whole 128 ounces of water, 3.8 liters. Bro, what are you trying to drown somebody from the inside out? What are you doing? Right? And so this is where it sounds like a lot. And this is coaches. If your client's like, oh, that sounds like a lot, it probably is a lot for them. And so maybe you do something. We teach this in our nutrition, in our coaching stuff, is that it's called a ramping protocol. You slowly increase the exposure to a stimulus over time. And you can do that from skills. You can do it from nutrients. There's a lot of different things that you can ramp. And so, if you want to learn more about that, just reach out and we'll get you some more information. But, everything has to be graded exposure, which is why it's good to have multiple things to juggle between fitness, lifestyle, and nutrition, because it takes 20 hours exposure, 1 hour a day for 3 weeks. And so you're not changing something for your fitness realistically more than that, not your lifestyle more than that, not your nutrition more than that. So now you're going to be on a 3-week cycle. Right. But, and so if your coach changes everything all the time and you don't request that and they don't explain it, that's probably a problem. If they change it not frequently enough and they copy and paste someone's weights into your workout plan that clearly are not your weights. I knew a really great CrossFit coach, and I won't drop names, but he once wrote programming for CrossFit Games athletes, and he would copy and paste certain workouts over. And you can argue it's ethical because as you are at that level, you're going to do the same thing anyway. But he left the weights in there. And this is back when individual design was a big thing. And so it was like snatch at 120 kilos, which is like fucking 275 pounds or something. And she was like a 5'5" female, like 140 pounds. There's no way she's going to snatch and put 270 pounds over her head. Right. So, that's going to demonstrate care factor, going back to the trust stuff. But moving into nutrition, I mean, like if someone doesn't give you some basic macronutrients, some basic micronutrients, and realistically like a basic fluid balance goal, then those are probably going to be things that would be a non-starter for me because those are very basic. And you can get those as deep as you'd like, but someone that gives you the same meal plan, you need to figure out, because I've seen this actually in a lot in the bodybuilding community by lesser credentialed or educated coaches, but they'll take a plan. This is wild to me. I knew a guy and a girl, and there were a couple, and they had the exact same meal plan. How? Down to the gram. Didn't tell them calories, right? Didn't tell them necessarily macros. It was like eat 4 eggs, eat 1 can of tuna, eat 1, ginger wrap, colon blow enema. Like, I don't know. And it literally told them to do the same thing. And so they came in and her hormones were fucked up, right? Like that poor thing had been so stressed because of just being absolutely malnourished because they are actually in different seasons as well. I think he was trying to bulk and she was trying to lean. Right. So, I mean, it just, it didn't make sense, I had that backwards. Anyways, so nutrition wise, macros, micros, ideally some kind of tracking app. And this is considering in a healthy population, not people with disordered eating tendencies. So if you've ever had any kind of penchant to avoid things or to be afraid of food in any way, borderline, maybe need to go talk to somebody, that should also be something that you look for if that's your demographic. But outside of that simple stuff, I mean, Steve, anything from you?
No, like I said, the water, hydration, fluid balance, as we said, is going to be my thing when it relates to the nutrition side of the house.
Yeah. And we say fluid balance, not hydration, guys, just so we're clear in that we're also referencing so fluid balance is more like micronutrients mixed with hydration practices. So you have your electrolytes. And if you drink too much water, sans electrolytes, like if you think about drinking distilled water, you can actually pull some of that stuff out and you can actually further like dehydrate yourself. So just be very careful with that. And your coach should be able to articulate these things that we're talking about in a very simple way. If you can ask them why they should be doing something, this is another coaching side. They should be able to give you a simple answer, or a very overly complex answer would be indicative of a newer coach, right? No answer at all would be indicative of probably someone that's humble enough to admit they don't know something. So it's still worthwhile to have that conversation. But someone that's like, oh, don't worry about it. And they downplay the importance of the question and they act like you trying to understand why you need to do something isn't like relevant and they make you feel stupid about it, like fire that coach immediately. I would be like, hey, I don't think this is a great fit for us. I think I'm going to go now, because every coach off of every recommendation should have a reason and a rationale as to why they're giving it to you. Otherwise,
that was my first nutrition coach.
Yeah. I mean, it happens. And that's because the coaches build scale on top of shitty fulfillment. And they learn from the best marketers in the space. So anyways, but now moving on to fitness, if we think about fitness stuff, I mean, you got to lift weights, probably should do some cardio. And people that say you don't need to do cardio because you're lifting weights, like enjoy your heart health issues, right? Like there's just going to be some weird stuff that's going to happen with that. Now you can say sitting in the sauna could be considered zone 1, zone 2 cardio. You can say that, obviously resting between sets and your aerobic fitness, also part of zone 2 cardio. So I won't die on that hill, but I will say that you got to stress the body and create fatigue. Otherwise, it's not going to change. And if you create too much fatigue and your nutrition's not on point and your lifestyle's not great, you're going to probably end up getting injured. So we're always looking at risk versus reward when it comes to the fitness component, right? Like how much, if you're going to deadlift, 1,000 pounds, that's probably pretty risky for your health. I mean, people have cranial hemorrhages, people prolapse, like it's fucking crazy. And so most people, that's really not worth it, having to shit funny for a while and potentially dying. Like look at Eddie Hall when he deadlifted, I think it was like close to 1,100 pounds or something crazy. So, I would say that's probably another component for you to consider. Steve, anything with fitness?
The fitness thing for me, I would say, is it's got to be something that you're bought into doing.
Yeah.
It's got to be fun, like going to the gym and working out and doing a program that you despise doing is worse than attempting to hit all your macros and calorie requirements in a day, just because it's like it's just not enjoyable. So there's going to be seasons where you have to do things you don't necessarily love doing. You should understand why you're doing that on the back end, but overarching, you should be able to go and take your fitness routine and enjoy it and feel good on the other side of what you're doing. So that way it's just something that you look forward to more than like, oh, I have to get through it and check the box. Because looking forward to your workout is a great way to crush your workout. Not looking forward to your workout is a great way to just kind of go and do the motions just to get finished with it.
Oh, 100%. And I mean, that's actually great because it leads us into our last thing here, which is the first thing that I promised everybody. You guys ready for are you ready for just the tip, or do you want the whole dialogue?
We want the whole dialogue.
The whole D. Okay, all right. So here it is. Steve already alluded to it. It's enjoyment. You don't enjoy the process at least 33% of the time, 1/3, one out of every three things you don't enjoy. Your likelihood of adopting that behavior decreases drastically. And so when we find that convenience is an important mediator or moderator of someone's consistency, we find enjoyment is the other thing that really goes into that. So if you're not super consistent and you find people, and this is why I say enjoyment's, arguably at the top in line with consistency, maybe a little bit lower, right? Like the people that are super consistent, super rigid, I mean, like, they don't necessarily have to enjoy it. The people that really enjoy something can now afford to, have a little bit lower of a consistency because they're going to inherently, want to engage with that thing or that practice significantly more. And so the thing that your coach should be doing is asking what you enjoy, asking what you don't enjoy, and asking those things on a regular basis as you start to explore and discover other parts of yourself that, maybe you had no idea that you really do enjoy weightlifting. And we see this all the time. People will start doing something because they want to lose a couple pounds and they fall in love with the sport of Olympic weightlifting or powerlifting or bodybuilding, and like they get the bug. And that's where your goal as a coach is to give people the bug first and get them intrinsically motivated, meaning self-motivated to want to go and do these things. And if you can do that because you can make it fun, whatever that means for them. Some people love whips and chains. Some people love, bricks and chains. And I'm referring to bench, like accommodating resistance variables. Right? If you can do that stuff, if you can use a log, and I'm not talking about the ones that, you drop off at the pool, but the ones that you press over your head, like sometimes unconventional things can create a sense of novelty. And when you introduce new things in a constructive, safe way, people tend to enjoy them substantially. And that's why when you think about coaching ruts and stuff, people have to have those new things introduced at a regular cadence. Some people not too much, some people significantly more. And you can ask those questions up front. And your coach, whoever you do hire, should be asking you those things. Because if they're not doing a debrief at least once a month, frankly, I think that their care factor is probably pretty low. Even if they are very competent and very reliable, they're going to teach you their method and they're only their method. And so there's going to be a shorter shelf life for that relationship than someone that can evolve with you as you're dynamically discovering and exploring new corners of yourself. So I would say that's probably it for fitness for me. Anything to wrap up? I mean, I feel like those are the high notes: fitness, nutrition, lifestyle. Don't be a shithead coach. Entertain questions.
No, I think that's a good, quick summary, as quick as Andrew and Steve can do it, on what a health consumer should be looking for. So coaches, these are some of the basics that you need to make sure that you're providing just to keep somebody engaged and increasing the likelihood of them getting success.
Yeah. And if you don't know where to do that or how to do that, again, we have a whole ecosystem that's built around supporting coaches. That's not full of just like marketing gimmicky shit. We really do take the time to research stuff, trial and error it, and then actually test it somewhere before we opt to give that out. Or if we don't and we're just exploring a little bit, because we do occasionally do some experiments, we'll make sure we're very forthright with that. We won't promise you're going to make 10K in 10 days, because frankly, I think that marketing stuff is getting a little out of control. So,
All that said, thanks for hanging out with us today at Beyond the Pump. We break down the business of fitness and nutrition. If you do not subscribe,
we'll find
you're an
you.
idiot. Like this video, smash that subscribe button, and if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. We'll see you next time.